So we're driving through Topeka, Indiana, which is a little Amish town. Within probably 30 miles of the Michigan state line. It's a pretty quiet little town. It's a clean town. It's really clean. Looks like they got a couple trailer factories. A lot of little Amish places. Looks like if you blinked, you'd miss it. Here we got an open top buggy with an Amish guy just trucking right along. Looks like we got a hay wagon up ahead too. From what I'm gathering, we're not going anywhere quick. Looks like this guy's sleeping on that carriage. We're gonna blow by him. Hurry up and wait. Because we got a tractor with the hay wagon. Looks like we got lucky. It's a truck, actually. take a left up here, right up here on 5. Go through Shipshewana, Indiana. I'm guessing that might spook the horn or the horse. Here we got some Amish girls tailgating the buggy. Holy cow. They're probably 2 feet from that back of that buggy. Living on the edge. I got dinner at the in-laws here later, and there's a fresh produce stand down the road here. I'm going to try to stop. Hopefully they're open.
Yep, that's right. The second. G.
No.
And a feature in newspapers that talks about people who've recently passed away begins with an O.
Obituary.
You did it! You did it, Kelly! You made me nervous there at first. I was like, oh no, we're going to get stuck on the first one. But I think once you understood how it goes, you were just fine.
Yeah, right.
Well, Kelly, how about one of our WB Seal water tumblers for playing along today?
That would be awesome.
You say flub, minimum 2 correct, you're a winner.
Okay.
Player number 1, Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber.
Flub.
Flub is right. That was my tricky one.
I'm like, ooh.
He was out in the Chicago Cubs years ago, but he's out in the Philadelphia Phillies.
KB.com. Thank you for joining us today. And don't forget, God gives second chances. Time will
Misha Dieter playing Hungarian Rhapsody number 13 by Franz Liszt. This is WAUS 90.7 FM, your classical connection. WAUS is pleased to announce the final Second Sunday concert for 2024, featuring classical guitarist and composer
I think
Peter
that was
Huntzes,
Korn.
returning for his 22nd season.
We were just really high up. The road was
Fernwood Botanical
high up.
Gardens in Niles, Michigan, Sunday, September 8th at 4 o'clock p.m. More information is available at 1-800-553-9287 and online at waus.org. The Second Sunday concert is made possible by generous support from WAUS listener members. Thank you. Playing next is the first movement from Sonata for Violin and Piano by Richard Strauss, performed by pianist Rohan de Silva.
We're not going anywhere fast, guys.
PR News in Culver City, California.
God could love you more.
On abortion. NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin reports that abortion bans affect the financial futures of individuals.
When the Supreme Court allowed states to ban abortion 2 years ago, economists warned that could set women's participation in the workforce back decades. That's because research shows that when a woman who wants an abortion is not able to get one,
Well, if
she's
she
less
didn't want a
likely
kid,
to
she
work
shouldn't have had
full-time, more
sex
likely
in
to
the
end up
first
poverty,
place.
and more likely to need public assistance.
What the heck?
So far, the economic impact has been uneven. Those who can travel across state lines or order abortion pills by mail have been able to sidestep the bans. Those who can't travel or don't have the know-how to do telehealth abortions must continue their pregnancies and face the financial consequences. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News.
A former elected official in Las Vegas has been found guilty of murdering an investigative journalist. NPR's Martin Costi reports prosecutors say Robert Tellis wanted to keep the reporter from writing more critical articles about him.
Clark County Public Administrator Robert Tellis lost his re-election.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's got animals around here.
About a hostile work environment in his office.
Where are you from?
Veteran reporter Jeff Garman was stabbed to death outside his Las Vegas home in September of that year.
I think we're still
Las
in...
Vegas Review-Journal Arthur Kane was in the courtroom for the murder verdict. Tellis said in court that he was being framed for the murder. The prosecutors say his SUV was caught on camera near the victim's house, and Tellis' DNA was found over the victim's fingernails. Martin Costi, NPR News.
Listening to the 2024 Paralympic Games began with an opening ceremony today in Paris. More than 4,400 athletes will compete in nearly 200 events. There's Becky Sullivan.
Oh, they got stinking pumpkins out already.
All sorts of challenges to compete at such a high level, from amputated limbs to loss of vision. The games will feature events across 22 sports, many index swimming races, and the 100-meter dash will be run multiple times, once for each environment classification. In total, about 550 medals were won. China has dominated the medal count in Paralympics for the past 2 decades. The U.S. hasn't finished better than third place in Summer Paralympics since hosting the Atlanta in 1996.
I'm from Michigan.
200 American athletes will participate. Organizers in Paris say more than 2 million tickets have been sold, making the second highest attendance ever.
USA.
As the old ESPN has explored the use of artificial intelligence to personalize its news.
This town that we're getting ready to come into, it's called Shipshewana, Indiana, and majority of the community is Amish, so there'll be tons of horses and buggies. If you're not used to seeing that, it'll be kind of cool. It's a little tourist town. They don't sell alcohol in the whole town. Good to meet you too.
Being so close to these birds that don't normally allow us to get that close to them was like some kind of force field or something emerging on their side of the love and feeling it. But the birds, it was romance life. And the birds.
Saturday at 4 p.m. and Wednesday at 7 p.m. here on 88.1 Support for NPR comes from the station and from work. Work on infrastructure is a platform for database application development and AI designed to provide cloud services for users. Learn more at work.com/one. From Make of America, offering access to resources and digital tools designed to help companies make moves for their businesses. Learn more at makeofamerica.com/makingforbusiness. And from the listeners who support this NPR station.
We're gonna try to find a cantaloupe somewhere in this town, so I can not go empty-handed over to my in-laws for dinner.
It is the first since she became the Democratic presidential nominee. NPR has interviewed the vice president 5 times since she was elected. And our White House correspondent, Usher Holland, has been digging through the NPR archives to tell us what we might learn from those conversations. Usher Holland joins us now. Hi, Usher. Hi, Elsa. Okay, so before we talk about those NPR interviews, I've got to ask you about this because it seems like the question of when and where Harris would do anything was becoming an issue itself on the campaign trail. Why was that?
That's right. The Trump campaign has accused Harris of trying to dodge the press to avoid questions because she has not done a one-on-one interview or held a press conference. And the pressure for her, I would say, to do an interview was growing beyond conservative circles because
Majority is just small family farms.
during this time period, Trump himself has held press conferences. To me, what was notable also was that prior to becoming the nominee, Harris had actually taken a lot of questions from reporters. Her team points out that she has done 80 interviews this year alone. But in all of those conversations, she was selling President Biden's policies and sometimes sidestepping questions about what she actually wanted. But now Harris is running for the top job, and there is an expectation that this CNN interview ought to be different, that she should be held accountable for her own policies and previous positions.
Right. Well, in terms of previous positions, NPR has done 5 interviews with Harris since she was the vice president. You did 3 of those interviews. And yeah, I'm wondering, over the course of those conversations, do you feel like you've gotten a sense of what she believes?
I think in listening back to them, you get a sense of how she thinks about this current moment in American politics, and even perhaps the framework of her presidential campaign. Elsa, the clearest example is how she talks about freedom. This idea of reclaiming freedom is a central theme of her presidential campaign, and more than 2 years ago, when the Supreme Court struck down Roe, she was talking about it. Here's what she said at the time.
It's an extraordinary thing that just happened in terms of the significance to the essential principles, the essential to our nation and its founding of freedom, of liberty, the right to privacy. It is profound in terms of where it takes us back. You know, we have a 23-year-old daughter who is going to know fewer rights than my 80-something-year-old mother-in-law.
So you hear a glimpse of her broad vision, and you get a glimpse of how she thinks about solving problems broadly. And here she was talking about voting rights in the summer of 2021. talks about organizing and coalition building. The challenge for her, though, was that when she speaks about lifting up voices, that was not necessarily sufficient for voters who wanted to see more concrete policy action from the administration.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm hearing in those pieces of tape sort of like broad outlines about her approach, her vision in politics, but like, do you get a sense of where Harris herself stood on key issues specifically?
Not really. I mean, she often echoed President Biden, which I would say is to be expected because she is the sitting vice president. But one thing that stood out to me is that when I tried to press her on details about what she thought, for example, on overturning the filibuster, she did not answer directly. You know, I asked her about this when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, and she said that she wanted to codify abortion access into law and was making this pitch to voters to elect more Democrats because there were not enough votes in the current Senate to pass such a law. But what I could not understand is that even if Democrats won control of the Senate, they still would not have enough votes to pass an abortion rights law through the normal process. So I asked her if she would support overturning the filibuster to codify Roe. And we spent a few minutes talking in circles.
Wow.
So to pass this law. I don't understand what you're saying, though. So you're saying that there wasn't Republican support for this legislation?
There was not. There was literally not.
Why not push for overturning the filibuster in that case, knowing that you're not going to have the Republicans?
You still need the votes to overturn the filibuster, and the votes don't exist.
Do you individually support that idea, though? Let's say you don't have the votes.
Why are we talking about hypotheticals? The votes don't exist. What I support, let me tell you what I support. I support electing a pro-choice Congress to get the votes to pass the legislation to put into law a protection for women of America to make decisions about their own body without government interference.
Huh. I mean, I hear you not getting a clear answer. Is that more about how she just doesn't want to answer the question, or is it she doesn't know how to answer the question? What do you think?
Well, I played some of these clips for Joel Goldstein. He's arguably the foremost expert on the office of the vice presidency, and in his view, Harris was just doing her job as the number two.
You know, you're in the room, but part of the price for that is that when you go out of the room, your role is more to articulate the administration's position and not necessarily to speak in your own voice.
At the time of that interview with Harris, President Biden had not yet publicly come out in support of the filibuster for codifying Roe, and Harris, as the vice president, was not going to come out ahead of him.
Okay, so I get not wanting to come out ahead of him, but I remember when Biden, when he was vice president, he went on a Sunday show and came out in support of same-sex marriage before President Obama was publicly behind same-sex marriage. So there is some precedent for expressing personal opinions in public as a vice president, right?
There is, but it's rare. And Debbie Walsh with the Center for American Women in Politics specifically brought up that Biden incident from 2012 to explain why the dynamic, in her view, is different for Harris.
I wonder, though, if when you are an older white man with decades of experience in the Senate, that it gives you a privilege to be able to step out, as opposed, even though she doesn't talk about it as much, if you are the first woman of color in that job, you don't have that same kind of privilege, and you might be more cautious about overstepping because that's how it would have been seen.
All right, so white male privilege, is that the explanation there, that she doesn't have it?
I mean, in all of these interviews, also, we clearly heard Harris as a loyal deputy, and that's what she has done these last few years in the job. But in conservative circles, she's developed a reputation for, quote, word salad. It is true that Harris has sometimes given long-winded answers that can be difficult to follow. And a major question I've wondered is, was she constrained by the job? And will she be able to be more direct in this CNN interview? Because it is one of the first times she'll be pressed on how she would be different than President Biden if she were indeed the one in charge making policy.
That is NPR's Esma Khalid. Thank you, Esma.
My pleasure.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
As millions of kids head back to school and summer draws to a close, at least one presidential campaign is heading into the classroom. Well, sort of. Vice President Harris's campaign announced new investments in reaching the youngest voters, which includes college students. But the Trump campaign doesn't want to be left behind as it tries to appeal to this vital voting bloc. NPR's Elena Moore covers young voters and joins us here in studio to help us understand how each campaign is courting college kids and other Gen Zers. Hi, Elena. Hey. Well, I want to start by talking about this new move by the Harris campaign. They're investing in college students, as you reported. Tell us about this.
Yeah, so the campaign has a goal. Reach about 150 campuses across 11 states, including those key battlegrounds you always hear about. Here's Vice President Harris's call to action.
So as you begin this school year, I'm calling on you to understand and know the stakes of this election, not only for our country, and for you.
So this video was part of a new back-to-school organizing push by the campaign that NPR was first to report. Harris is doubling her campaign's youth organizing staff, and she's also going to run ads on social media, in school newspapers, and on college websites. And the campaign also launched a college tour with Harris surrogates. And that pretty much began immediately. Yesterday we saw Gen Z Congressman Maxwell Frost visiting a few schools in North Carolina.
Okay, and how does this new push that you've been reporting on complement what the campaign's already doing?
Well, when President Biden was leading the charge, his campaign did invest in youth organizing, and early. You know, they had staff dedicated to engaging young voters since the beginning of the year, and they launched a student-focused program back in March. So these moves from Harris are really, you know, kind of building on that initial rollout, especially since the campaign absorbed a lot of the same staff.
But the Trump campaign has its own outreach, right? Tell us what that's looking like.
Well, notably, his campaign has collaborated a bunch with Turning Point Action, which is the organizing wing of the youth-focused conservative group that has long backed Trump. The former president has also made a point to reach younger voters online. He's got a pretty popular TikTok account, and he's appeared with prominent social media influencers, and he's done interviews on popular podcasts with comedians and content creators. And I should also mention that one of the Trump campaign's top messengers is a member of Gen Z herself, National Press Secretary Caroline Levin.
Elena, tell us, why are the campaigns putting such an emphasis on courting this group? We know that young voters don't have a particularly long history of showing up to vote.
That is true. They do not. I mean, over the past few election cycles, we have seen that change slightly. Turnout has noticeably actually increased among voters under 30. And it's worth noting that these campaigns have different goals, Juana. Like, young voters typically support Democratic candidates, and they're a part of the party's base. But Trump, on the other hand, doesn't need to rely on that group. You know, he hasn't in the past. And that said, if he can shave off some of the support Democrats get, I mean, that could matter.
I mean, Elena, you're our young voter expert. Knowing what you know, do you think these different approaches by the Trump and Harris campaigns are working?
I mean, we know both campaigns are emphasizing reaching voters online, given how, you know, many people actively use social media. But at the same time, while having TikTok is very fun and all, a lot of young people tell me they want to see their politicians actually show up for them in person as well. And I will also just add that, you know, Trump has had consistent support from young conservatives, but for Democrats, it's fluctuated. I mean, Harris is getting a boost right now, but these voters also soured on Biden this year. So, you know, it always gets back to this question of will they vote? You know, the momentum might be there right now, but 70 days for Gen Z could be an eternity.
NPR's Elena Moore, thank you.
Thank you.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News.
Program support is provided in part by the Community Foundation of St. Joseph County, encouraging IRA owners over 70 and a half to consider the benefits of a charitable gift annuity, lifetime income, and a charitable legacy. Learn more at cfsjc.org/IRA.
Support comes from the South Bend and Edwardsburg offices of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services of Northern Indiana. Their Indiana, Michigan-based staff is dedicated to serving buyers and sellers through the entire real estate transaction process. More information at 574-284-2600 or at bhh@northernindianarealestate.com.
Support for WVPE comes from Greencroft Goshen, sponsoring Healthcare Headlines, Thursdays at 7:45 during Morning Edition. This feature explores impacts of place, policy, and economics on the health of Michiana citizens. Past episodes can be found on WVPE.org under the Program tab. Healthcare Headlines, every Thursday morning.
Support for WVPE comes from Relish Cafe and Confections, located in Hotel Elkhart, offering tummy-pleasing waffles ranging from savory to sweet, because waffles are just pancakes with abs. Hashtag want a waffle? Relish the day at Relish Cafe and Confections, Hotel Elkhart.
This week on Reveal, a wealthy Utah politician goes to the Northern Cheyenne Reservation to adopt a native child. When members of the child's tribe learn about it, they're horrified, especially because the adoption doesn't seem to follow federal protections aimed at keeping native children within their communities. This week on Reveal, 2 reporters unearthed secret recordings, adoption case documents, and federal investigative files to understand how it was possible. That's tomorrow night at 7. Reveal on 88.1 WVPE. Find us online at WVPE.org.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Juana Summers.
And I'm Elsa Chang. Wall Street analysts are calling today their Super Bowl. The chip company Nvidia reported blockbuster earnings this afternoon, but that big win fell flat. Its stock fell in after-hours trading, and here to explain more is NPR finance correspondent Maria Aspen. Hi, Maria.
Hey, Elsa.
Hey, okay, so Wall Street has been waiting all week for the closing bell for Nvidia to release this report. How did it do exactly?
Look, it did really well. Nvidia reported sales of $30 billion in just the last 3 months.
Wow.
That is more than double its revenues from a year earlier, and it's better than what analysts were expecting. But look, the hype was intense, and in some ways, Nvidia was just never going to live up to it. There are a few things going on here. First of all, Nvidia has been just such a crazy market success story. There was one point in June when its stock price rose so high that it became the most valuable company in the world, overtaking Microsoft and Apple.
Right.
But it's not a Microsoft or an Apple. Those companies do hundreds of billions of dollars a year in sales, not tens. And if you look at Nvidia's sales, it's still kind of a tiny company in comparison. And that's where you start to see why this might be a little bit more hype than reality.
I mean, Nvidia also is not exactly a household name. It has this weird spelling. The company is still teaching people how to pronounce its name. But just remind us why everyone is paying so much attention to this company.
It is all about the AI gold rush. All of the big tech companies, those household names, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, Google, they're all going after AI, and they're spending billions of dollars or tens of billions of dollars each to do so. And if AI is the latest gold rush, Nvidia is selling gold. I have to say, I'm stealing that metaphor from analyst Andy Lee at Credit Sites. He told me that as long as big companies like the Microsofts and Googles are trying to, what he calls hyperscale their AI investments, Nvidia is going to be at the center of the action.
In some respects, they are really the only game in town, and as long as the appetite from kind of like the big hyperscalers, as long as the appetite to invest continues, then the vast majority of that benefit is going to flow to Nvidia.
And Lee also told me that the frenzy around Nvidia isn't just about its business, as good as that is. It's also about the stock market overall.
Yeah, let's talk about the stock market overall. Why does Wall Street care so much about Nvidia?
This is a larger story. It's not just about what is, frankly, still a B2B equipment maker at its core. I mean, tech is the foundation of the market right now, and Nvidia is the one undergirding these big tech companies. So it would be bad for everyone, not just Nvidia, if the market tanks. And it's also important to point out, tech has been this bright spot for investors, and frankly for all of us, amid all this other uncertainty. We're waiting for the Fed to lower interest rates. We're still feeling the effects of inflation. We're going into a very contentious presidential election. In the middle of that, tech, and especially AI, seems like this huge, happy extravaganza. In other words, it really is kind of like the Super Bowl.
Maybe? That is NPR's Maria Aspen. Thank you so much, Maria.
Thanks so much, Elsa.
The founder and CEO of Telegram, a hugely popular messaging app, has been indicted in France. Pavel Durov is a 39-year-old tech billionaire who hails from Russia and is now a citizen of both France and the United Arab Emirates. Parisian authorities have held him for questioning since Saturday. The charges stem from controversial content on the today's indictment is sure to send ripples through the tech world. Here's Bobby Allen has been following the story and joins us now. Hi, Bobby.